Hi, I'm Richard from Electric Classic Cars, and on this week's episode, sponsored by Mauser Electronics, TE Connectivity and Microchip, it's all about the Land Rover Defender, and more specifically, our latest generation drop-in electric conversion kit for them. So, let's get into it. So we've been converting Land Rover Defenders like this to electric since 2016, which is a long time ago. How many years?
9 years.
9 years. Quick on the maths there, Tim, well done. So 9 years of experience converting Land Rover Defenders like this. And our go-to kit for many, many years is pretty much what's in this Land Rover here, which is a Tesla pack. So we've got most of the pack in the front and the rest in the back. But I was never quite happy with the rear side of things, because the front was fine, but the rear, because of the size of the Tesla batteries, never really fitted where I wanted to put them, if you like. And I'll explain more at the back here. So here in the rear of the Land Rover Defender, on the 90, you've only got about that much space between the rear cross member and where the axle is. And if you think about it, that much space available, a Tesla battery is that long, ain't gonna fit. So we had to put the batteries on our first generation kits here. So on a 90, you've got your forward facing seats sitting on top of it, and a Defender 110. Quite often there's a drawer that people put in here anyway, so it's not the end of the world in a 110. But battery technology moves on, energy density, and the form factor of batteries moves on, and now from our Gen 1 kit, we now have our Gen 3 kit. I know we've skipped over Gen 2, but we can't put everything in this video. Gen 3 kit is where we're at now. So, what's different? Now, it's fair to say that wiring systems have got a lot more complicated than what was originally in this old Land Rover Defender here, for instance. You've got, in modern cars, driver assist, infotainment systems, and with EV and hybrid, you've got a lot more wiring going on with sensors and other things like that. So the requirements for an automotive wiring architecture has completely changed, and that's where our sponsors for this episode today, TE Connectivity and Microchip, are really on the forefront of that technology. Conventional vehicles are based on a domain architecture in which systems are grouped by function with large and complex cable harnesses. But a new concept in vehicle design has emerged: zonal architecture. Offering a more efficient solution, zonal architecture streamlines the introduction of new technology. Together, Microchip and TE Connectivity are delivering groundbreaking connectivity for the challenges of zonal architecture, combining high-speed, robust design and advanced features for tomorrow's automotive applications. And if you want to find out more about TE Connectivity and Microchip's exciting technology in this field, we put some links in the description, and don't forget, all of their products are available through Mauser at mauser.com. So when we're looking to develop the latest generation of our Land Rover kit, the front battery box is a given. You've got to put a load of batteries in here that's similar weight to the original engine and take up that much space. That's the easy bit. The more difficult bit is where you're going to put the rest of the batteries. Now, we did consider an obvious place, which was here, because underneath the seat is where we put batteries before on cars, and I thought there's a big box here. The bit here, which normally has the transmission and transfer box in, is kind of gone, so we end up with a flat floor. So we could have put a battery box across there. Now, I discounted that very early on for a number of reasons. Number one is there's a load of 12-volt stuff. This is where all your fuses, relays, your 12-volt battery is underneath the other side. So there's a load of stuff in there, which is the main brains and wiring, if you like, of the car, would have to be moved. The other thing was, to get the batteries that we'd need in, we would have had to have come underneath here, probably to around about this level here, which isn't ideal in off-roading, especially with my experience of off-roading. This area here is where it would get hit as you're going over undulations and rocks and stuff, which is why this customer's got rock sliders on here, for instance, which protect the sill. But the main reason which I didn't do it is because of weight balance. So if I shut the door here, you'll see what I mean. So if you imagine all the weight in the front there and here, on a 110, that means you've got all the weight kind of like around about here on the front axle, which in a car that's not renowned for its handling is not a good idea. So we then started concentrating on the rear where the petrol tank used to be, and try to see if we can get that battery box underneath there, because don't forget, on a Defender 90 or a 110, 110 can carry a ton of weight. It's designed to carry that weight here, so we needed weight on the rear to balance out the weight on the front. So that's why we started looking in detail as to that rear fuel tank area to try and fit a battery box in there. Now, over those 9 years that we've been converting Defenders like this to electric, we've learnt a lot, specifically how many different versions there are of Defenders. Now, they all look the same, but production-wise, they were in production from around about 1990 to 2016, and over that time, you had all sorts of different engines in the front here. You had 200 TDIs, 300 TDIs, TD5s, petrol V8s. I probably missed out one or two, so a number of different engines in the front, engine mounts, etc. You had early Defenders, late Defenders, Puma ones, different dashboards, even like 110s. You had 110 like this with 4 doors, you had 2-door pickups, you had 90s, 130s, 130 high caps, loads of different variations and versions of Land Rover Defenders. So when we design a kit, they have to be universal and work with all iterations, and that's what we've done with Gen 3. So in front of me here is the guts of our Gen 3 Defender kit. And here it is, our Gen 3 Land Rover Defender bolt-in electric conversion kit. It looks really simple. Okay, there's a couple of things missing, mainly the motor, but this has had a lot of development work to get to this point. So what have we got? Well, 2 battery boxes. We've got the main front battery box here, which has the lion's share of the batteries in, and then you've got your rear battery box, which used to be the problem area for those Tesla modules, and this comes in 2 sizes. This one's for a 110, and the 90 is a little bit shorter to be able to fit in that tight space where the old fuel tank used to go. So rear battery box fits right up underneath where the petrol tank used to be. In fact, I think it's a little bit higher. And then the front one over here, and then this is your motor cradle. So 2 versions of the motor cradle. This one here for the Tesla large drive unit for those that want crazy amounts of power, and then there's another version of this for the Tesla Model 3 motor, which gives a good punchy amount of power. That's still enough for 90% of cases, if you like, is the Tesla Model 3 motor, which is a very good motor. So 2 versions of this, 1 version of that, and 2 versions of that, depending if it's a 110 or a 90. As far as battery capacity is concerned, your 110, funnily enough, gets 110 kilowatt hours, and the 90, unfortunately, we couldn't fit 90 kilowatt hours in, but we got 82 kilowatt hours in. So that's the size of the battery, different motor options, but there's a lot of other things going on just apart from these 3 main items here. Now, it's fair to say the devil is in the detail whenever we do a bolt-in conversion kit, and this gives you somewhat of an idea as to what I'm talking about, because it's not just about those 2 big battery boxes and a motor cradle. It's all about stuff like this that makes the conversion easy. So you got things like a cable tray, for instance, here. You've got a high voltage cable traveling through that, all sorts of bracketry. This is part of the battery box mount, and then this here, you're probably wondering what it is. If I put this on here and put that on there like that, turn it round, that there essentially sits underneath the passenger seat or driver's seat if it's left-hand drive, and this has all the ECUs in it. So you've got your VCU, your air conditioning controller. There's about 5 different controllers in this area, including your 12-volt fuses, relays, and your 12-volt battery box. So this is our version of what normally sits underneath the seat, and obviously it's in 3 bits, just so you can actually fit it in like that and bolt it all up. I'll show you what I mean in a minute when we show you one of the finished vehicles. Now, that last panel I picked up lives in here, so if you come in close to him you can see why that's so busy a panel, because in here is most of your loom, your 12-volt loom coming in. You've got your 12-volt battery. You've got controllers in various different places. You've got your relays and fuses in here. And then, as I said before, you've got your ECU, your motor controller, and there's one more to go in as well, which looks like the air conditioning controller. So that's why that panel was so complicated, because this is pretty much the brains of the whole vehicle. And talking about looms, we haven't spoken or shown you yet the 12-volt loom and the high voltage loom, so let's have a look at that. So all of our kits come with pre-done low voltage and high voltage looms with all the bulkhead, grommets, connectors that you'll need, and even different versions. This is for an early Defender, so there's different options that's not made for this loom. So this is a Defender 90 loom. So this is a low voltage Defender 90 loom. Another loom getting made up here, and then your high voltage over there as well. So all of the looms in our kits are all pre-done. And this is what it all looks like in the car, or at least in the front of the car. So you've got your main battery pack there, you've got your charger there. As far as charging is concerned, 6 kilowatt single phase, 11 kilowatt 3-phase. It's also the DC to DC converter, so it's actually acting, if you like an alternator, charging up the 12-volt battery. It also has V2L, vehicle to load as well, so if you wanted to run 240 volts off, say, the charge socket, or have some 3-pin plugs inside, it allows you to do that as well. And also, talking about charging, we've got CCS as well, so rapid charging, DC fast charging on it as well. You've got your radiator up front, you've got your main radiator for your motor and inverter, and another radiator for the battery system. 2 header tanks because of that, because we're running 2 separate systems. So you've got 1 header tank there for the battery, 1 there for the motor and inverter, and your electric power steering pump there. So that's what it all looks like in the vehicle. This one's not running yet, should be running next week, I think. We're just doing some pre-startup checks on it, but yeah, that's what the front of it looks like. So underneath here on this 90, we've got the Model 3 motor in. As I said, you can have 2 motor options. You've got either your Tesla large drive unit, which gives you 450 to 600 horsepower, which is nuts. That's what's in my Land Rover Defender. You've got to have a couple of screws loose to have one of those, or the Model 3 motor, which is plenty punchy enough. So Model 3 motor in this one, we've got our own prop shaft here. You'll notice this is a custom prop shaft, not just because of the length, but also we got rid of the UJs, which create vibration because they're not rotating uniformly as far as speed is concerned. That's why they're not called constant velocity. These are. So that's our custom prop shaft, because obviously when you get rid of the engine in a Defender, you realise how much other vibrations and noises there are, and that's a development we did a few years ago. And then obviously all your cables, high voltage and low voltage, coming up here as well. So there's your motor. We've got to put the rear battery box tomorrow, and then this should be running in a few days. So on an off-roader, wherever you've got exposed high voltage or low voltage cables, you want to kind of protect them from any road dirt or gravel getting thrown at them. And that's what these metal boxes are here. So you've got your high voltage, your orange, and your black, your low voltage coming in, and then it's going behind this steel cable tray, if you like, that's basically protecting it. And there's a number of these on the vehicle, either here, for instance, or underneath. So there you go, 9 years of experience has gone into developing our latest version of the kit. You know, starting with a vehicle like this. This one's halfway through, right the way to this one behind me, which is pretty much finished now. It'll be going and driving this week probably, but yeah, 9 years of experience in developing these kits. They are bolt-in conversion kits, available not to the DIY market unfortunately, but they are available to workshops and other EV conversion workshops around the world, and we ship these globally. As far as pricing is concerned, it's not worth going into pricing here. Contact us through our website if you're interested, because there's so many different variations and options, from 82 kilowatt hours to 110 kilowatt hours. We even do 165 kilowatt hours for the Defender 130. There's AC or no AC. There's Model 3 motors, large drive units, etc. There's a load of variations. If you are interested, contact us through our website. And on that note, I think it just remains for me to thank our sponsors for today's episode, Microchip and TE Connectivity and Mauser Electronics. Go to mauser.com for all your electronics component needs. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.